All right, let's jump right into this explainer because today we're completely shattering one of the biggest myths in the entire blockchain space. For years, the ultimate rallying cry of crypto has been code is law. You know, this utopian idea that pure math could perfectly replace our messy, complicated human legal system. But what actually happens when the code gets it wrong? We have all seen the headlines, massive DeFi hacks, millions drained in an absolute instant over a single bug. And the victims? They're left totally empty-handed. Today, we're exploring how true enforceable justice is finally coming to Web3, and specifically how the QGov architecture solves this massive structural problem by legally binding users to a private contract and bringing human safety valves into the mix.
Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the code is law fallacy, move through crowdsourced courts, look at the QGov constitution, explore Liechtenstein's legal bridge, and wrap up with the ICC safety valve and the future of justice.
So, Section 1, the code is law fallacy. Let's see how that original cypherpunk dream actually plays out in the real world.
We really have to ask ourselves, what happens when smart contracts outsmart their human creators? I mean, picture this. You type one wrong digit and poof, your life savings vanishes into a digital black hole. Or a dApp gets absolutely gutted because of a tiny oversight in the code. Think back to the infamous DAO hack in 2016, where tens of millions of dollars were just siphoned off. And why? Simply because a smart contract technically allowed it. When pure code says tough luck, for a long time the answer was literally, well, nothing. The system executed flawlessly, but it completely ignored the reality of human error or malicious intent. It essentially treated a devastating theft as a perfectly valid transaction.
There's a great quote that hits the nail on the head here. Poorly designed code can be as harmful as poorly designed law. Just because a process is fully automated absolutely does not make it flawless. Hard-edge cryptography and binary logic, they can just never fully capture the complex nuances of actual human intention. A smart contract doesn't know the difference between a simple typo by a well-meaning user and a highly sophisticated fraud by a hacker. It just executes the command, blindly. And that blind execution is exactly where the code is law philosophy completely falls apart.
When we put these two side by side, the friction is just glaringly obvious. Law is dynamic, it's nuanced. It's a human-to-human expression that breathes and adapts, and crucially, it considers context. Think of the law like a reasonable store manager who can listen to your situation and issue a refund. Code, on the other hand, is a rigid, finite system of computer programming. It's like a relentless vending machine that takes your money even if the candy bar gets hopelessly stuck against the glass. You literally cannot reduce the entire legal world to objective binary rules. It breaks down the second something unexpected happens.
Moving on to Section 2, crowdsourced courts as partial fixes. Let's look at how the industry initially tried to solve this rigidity.
To fix this total lack of human nuance, early innovators tried out these crowdsourced jury models, like Kleros. Basically, anonymous, decentralized laypeople stake cryptocurrency to vote on binary outcomes in a dispute. But here's the catch. The incentive mechanism is entirely financial. If you vote with the majority, you win tokens. If you vote with the minority, your stake tokens are taken and redistributed to the winners. You aren't necessarily voting on what is legally or morally correct. You're essentially placing a financial bet on what you think everyone else is going to pick.
We see two variations of this with Aragon and Kleros. Aragon uses guardians, relying on a plurality consensus and a concept called the Schelling point. Now, a Schelling point is just a game theory concept. Imagine you and a buddy get separated in New York City without your phones. You both head to Times Square because you assume that's the most obvious place the other person will think to go. That's a Schelling point. Kleros uses jurors with a similar majority vote mechanism. Both rely heavily on game theory. They're asking anonymous internet users to guess what their peers think is the most obvious answer, rather than actually applying legal principles to a complex dispute. And naturally, that leads to some insurmountable limitations. These crypto courts are an interesting band-aid, but they completely fail to scale for serious applications. The voters usually lack legal training, and decisions are heavily skewed by financial profit. But the biggest deal breaker? This model lacks true off-chain enforcement, what the legal world calls res judicata. In plain English, that means a matter has been permanently judged by a recognized court, and it's legally binding in the physical world. Big enterprises absolutely will not rely on anonymous internet voters clicking buttons to enforce binding legal outcomes.
Which brings us to Section 3, the QGov Constitution Solution. If pure code is too rigid and crowdsourced crowds are too chaotic, how do we actually fix this? This is where the sheer genius of the QGov architecture comes in. The foundational element is the Q Constitution. Now, this isn't just some fuzzy list of community guidelines. The Q Constitution is an enforceable private contract. It's a legally binding agreement between all ecosystem participants that establishes both algorithmic rules, the pure code, and subjective rules, which capture the actual human intent. By opting in, every single user is legally bound to a predictable, mature set of rules. It takes the absolute best parts of decentralization and wraps them in real-world legal accountability.
So how does this actually function? The Q protocol uses a brilliant system of checks and balances. In step 1, validators maintain network integrity and process your day-to-day transactions. But then, in step 2, you have a completely separate, independent layer called root nodes. They don't process transactions at all. Instead, they act almost like the Supreme Court of the network. They constantly monitor validators to strictly enforce the boundaries set by the Constitution. And finally, in step 3, QGov token holders actively participate in governance, keeping the whole system decentralized but rigorously accountable to its own laws.
Section 4. Liechtenstein's Legal Bridge. How do we connect this digital world to physical reality? A digital constitution is really only as strong as the physical jurisdiction backing it up, right? Enter the incredibly forward-thinking jurisdiction of Liechtenstein. Through their innovative blockchain act, they introduced something called the token container model. It's this profound framework that treats a digital token as a container for physical civil rights. Just imagine the digital token is an envelope, and stuffed firmly inside that envelope is a legally binding physical contract. Because of this, abstract digital code is legally bridged directly to enforceable civil law. A smart contract interaction on QGov has the exact same legal power as a traditional paper contract signed in a lawyer's office.
Section 5, the ICC safety valve. This is the ultimate safeguard. If we have a legally binding digital constitution backed by a real-world legal framework, what happens when things go critically wrong? Let's look at the escalation path. Say on day 1, a major dispute arises, like a sophisticated hack. By day 7, those root nodes we just talked about can intervene using an emergency shutdown module. It's like pulling the emergency brakes on a runaway train, pausing interactions to prevent any further theft. Then, by month 1, instead of throwing the dispute to a gamified crypto crowd, the system escalates directly to real human adjudicators at the International Chamber of Commerce. And this right here is the absolute game changer. The Q protocol brings serious institutional maturity to Web3 by natively utilizing the ICC arbitration court. It allows real, professional human adjudicators to step in and apply equitable safety valves to smart contract disputes. It completely replaces chaotic token voting with professional, legally binding real-world arbitration. If you are building a massive Web3 enterprise, this is the exact institutional trust and safety net you absolutely need to operate securely. Finally, Section 6, the future of justice. Let's bring it all together.
I want to leave you with this provocative thought to chew on. If code is no longer the final law, is the blockchain finally ready for the real world? By binding users to the Q Constitution as an enforceable private contract, and by utilizing the ICC arbitration court so human adjudicators can apply equitable safety valves, we are not abandoning the incredible efficiency of the blockchain. We're civilizing it. We're making it viable for actual real-world enterprise use. And this brilliant combination of flawless smart contracts with the safety of human equity just might be the massive institutional shift we have all been waiting for.